Proclaim the truth and do not be silent through fear, a quote said by St. Catherine of Siena. St. Catherine was born on March 25th, 1347 in Siena, Italy. At the age of 16, her sister died and her parents asked her to marry her husband. She, as a result, fasted and cut her hair short in order to resist her parents and skew her image. She also joined the Third Order of Saint Dominic, which helped her associate with a religious society while staying at her home. St. Catherine of Siena was a very religious and generous woman throughout her life. She had a habit of giving things away that belonged to her family, including food and clothing. She did this without permission. At the age of 21, while St. Catherine was praying privately, she described an experience known as the mystical marriage. She describes this encounter as her seeing Jesus, Jesus taking her to see God, and God giving her a ring. This apparition is accompanied by a ceremony. The Blessed Virgin Mary, saints, and angels were also present. Her spirituality can best be described using a quote that she said that states, "Build yourself a spiritual cell, which you can always take with you, and that is the cell of self-knowledge. You will find there also the knowledge of God's goodness to you. There are really two cells in one, and if you live in one, you must also live in the other. Otherwise, the soul will either despair or be presumptuous. If you dwelt in self-knowledge alone, you would despair. If you dwelt in knowledge of God alone, you would be tempted to presumption. One must go with the other, and thus you will reach perfection." When St. Catherine is saying this, she means that people should always dwell in a state of spirituality, and that staying in a spiritual cell will also have a person dwell in a cell of self-acknowledgement. St. Catherine also said that, "Consider God's charity. Where else have we seen someone who has been offended voluntarily, who has been offended voluntarily, paying out his life for those who have offended him?" St. Catherine of Siena is talking about Jesus Christ and how he died on the cross to save us from sins. Jesus did not have to die on the cross or endure the pain that came with it, but he did so that we could live with forgiven original sins. Consider God's charity means that he did this out of an act of his own free will. St. Catherine was a very intellectual human in her words and in her actions. Some of St. Catherine's quotes include, "The soul is in God and God in the soul, just as the fish is in the sea and the sea in the fish." St. Catherine of Siena said this in the Dialogue, and the meaning of this quote is that God lives in all of us, as well as we live in God and serve God. God lives in us, which is known as sanctifying grace. St. Catherine of Siena had a very close relationship with God. She would pray regularly, and one day she was visited by Jesus as she was praying. And he said, "Do you know, daughter, who you are and who I am? If you know these two things, you would be blessed. You are that which is not. I am he who is. If you have this knowledge in your soul, the enemy can never deceive you. You will escape all his snares. You will never consent to anything contrary to my commandments, and without difficulty you will acquire every grace, every truth, and every light." Jesus told St. Catherine of Siena with the intention that if she knew who she was, and if she followed the teachings that Jesus gave to us through his preachings and the commandments, she would become holy in the utmost form, acquiring every light and truth. She, however, needs to understand herself and who God is before she can achieve this level of grace. St. Catherine also had an experience called a gift of tears. During this experience, the person involved renews the emotions of Jesus himself, who did not hide his tears whenever something bad happened, including his last days on earth. St. Catherine of Siena also said that nothing great is ever achieved without much enduring, and by this I believe that she means that perseverance is always required when wanting to achieve greatness. A prayer that St. Catherine wrote goes as follows: "Precious blood, ocean of divine mercy, flow upon us. Precious blood, most pure offering, procure us every grace. Precious blood, hope and refuge of sinners, atone for us. Precious blood, the light of holy souls, draw us." Amen.